listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower on WRES 100.7 FM in Asheville. Listen up and get tapped into local important resources, information, and topics. Learn more about the topics of today's show at buncombecounty.org. Okay, it's time to get tapped in.
Hello, 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 hello. If you hear my voice, you know it is time to get tapped in. I got a box, y'all. It's awesome. This is your host, ZaKiya Bell Rogers, and I have with me my co-host.
And I'm Leonard Jones.
And Leonard and I come to you from Buncombe County Government Communications and Public Engagement Department, where real heroes wear capes. Leonard! Welcome back, because you weren't here last week, but tell us who we have with us this week.
Well, this week we have one of our favorite guests, Dr. Noreal Armstrong, who is the Equity and Human Rights Officer for Buncombe County, and she is here to give us some information about what her office is doing post Helene. I know we had her on there a few weeks back talking with us about self and mental care during this time, but we are about to see some of the work that's been done out here to serve all those in Buncombe County. So welcome, Dr. Noreal Armstrong.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Yes. And like Leonard said, you are one of our favorite guests. We love to have you here. Tell us how you've been doing. How are you doing? We're 6 months post Helene almost.
6 months post Helene almost. I'm doing well. The office is moving and shaking. We are working the recovery. I'm trying to take care of myself, encourage my staff to take care of themselves, rest when we can, and just excited to kind of see the transition, really, seeing things getting rebuilt, seeing people reopen, seeing the resiliency in the community. So I think we're in a good spot. Coming into spring, daylight savings time, getting a little bit more light, getting a little bit more fresh air. So yeah, take it time to just reset and refocus.
Yeah. And that's, really important that people understand that we are in a process. Mm-hmm. And what processes comes, making sure that we're paying attention to all people in our community. So please share about the EHRO work since the storm. Yeah.
Equity and Human Rights Office.
I know. Like y'all knew that.
So as we transition into this long-term recovery,
I know.
Share us what your office is doing.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And I love a good acronym.
Yeah.
So Equity and Human Rights Office. So currently we are working across all of the recovery support functions within Buncombe County. We call those RSFs for short. And I have my equity and inclusion specialists. They're attending different RSF subgroup meetings to gain understanding of processes and plans in order to provide best practices for supporting community members. And that's been going really, really well. And we're using those groups to address a variety of needs. There's debris, there's housing, there's HSS, there's drawing a blank all of a sudden, infrastructure. All of those pieces, recovery support, economic revitalization. And so we are sitting across all of those RSFs, providing that equitable lens and talking through different things. And in the first days of the storm, the Equity and Human Rights garnered community support from local mental health therapists, some who were also impacted by the storm, to provide mental health and wellness support to our first responders, to EMS, to dispatchers, county staff, and visitors who came to support. We had over 10 therapists show up on September 30th. It was a really great thing to see.
Nice.
They volunteered their time. They set up listening circles for clients. They did one-on-one, or for listening circles, they did one-on-one pop-up sessions. And eventually they branched out to churches and community centers in areas of need. We created quiet rooms at our ELC location that staff were able to utilize when they needed to reset. And currently the listening circles for WNC residents, they were open to the public, and they're still being offered until April 23rd. And the Reconnecting Through Hard Times webinars were facilitated in the early months after the storm and will continue until April 16th. If anyone is interested to learn more, you can check out the Resources for Resilience webpage for more information. And then, kind of as things begin to settle, the therapists were able to connect with specific departments within the county who desired wellness support for their staff, who heard and saw things that were difficult to see. And so we were proud of that. Another thing was, in addition to the mental health and wellness support for those individuals on the front line, our staff created a phone tree to call and check on our elders in the community. And through that, we were able to learn who needed physical assistance, water, medication refills, and to coordinate with the EOC to get supports to them. And that was kind of a passion project, just came out of, oh my goodness, you have people who are in the older age and that 65 and up range, and we didn't have cell service for 2 days, and so how do we make sure that they're getting their needs and their support? So that turned out to be one of those things that we were glad we did, but it honestly tugged at your heartstrings. It made you feel good. And so the goal then and now remains to provide all with adequate and efficient access, opportunities, and services. And we're working to support recovery for all of those and focusing in on those who were most impacted by Helene. So that's kind of what we've done so far.
Yes, I heard you mention a few things out there just to give people some clarity on some things. You mentioned the EOC. Can you explain what the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, we know it immediately popped up prior to the storm and after the storm, but now that we find ourselves 6 months later, you mentioned the EOC and as well as the resource, what the hell is it called?
For resilience?
No, the RS.
The recovery support function.
Recovery support functions, and just give us some information about what's the EOC and
RSF.
Yeah, RSF and the work that's happening.
Sure. So the EOC, like you said, the Emergency Operations Center, was established day of. And the main purpose of that is to get everybody who can, some people couldn't for different reasons, but everybody who can and can be on board to kind of go into action and jump into action with trying to recover. And that recover means a lot of things. So trying to make sure we're locating staff, make sure we're helping citizens, make sure we're trying to get phone service back up. So any of those initial emergency things, helping people get from their roofs, from where all those things that you think about, you see on TV, kind of see it out there. It's like, oh yeah, that's what happened to them. And then it's you, and you're like, oh gosh, this is real. Life kind of pauses for a second. But it's just the hub. It's where we meet. It's where we talk. It's where we plan. It's where everybody has their different tasks, from the sheriff's office to EMS to community paramedics to county leadership. And so we're all there trying to decide next steps and how to move forward, setting up the daily briefings. At first we started doing daily briefings, setting
twice a day.
Yeah, we were doing twice a day. So setting those up, bringing people in to speak for those and share information, collaborating with state organizations and national organizations, and help came from all over. And so really that was just the location that when everybody came in to help, that was where we were. And so we set up and we made plans and we implemented those plans from that location.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up just to let the listeners out there realize that we're not working in silos, that it is a full-on approach across departments and divisions, and we locate it on one floor to make sure that when issues come up that we are trying to address them from all needs. So I hear a lot, you had mentioned with your team that y'all are involved in a lot of those areas to make sure that we are keeping equity and thinking of all Buncombe County residents at one time. So I just want to follow up with a question. What have been some of the takeaways from the aftermath of Helene, and how has the county responded?
Well, exactly what you just said, like everybody working across with in collaboration with we're not in these silos. People are working in areas and positions that they have never had to work in before, learning a new skill and having to then implement it. So I think for me, one of my biggest takeaways is that concept of one Buncombe. Sometimes people have little tag calls and sign that and things like that, but we really did lean into that one Buncombe concept. And it was amazing to see how those who were able to jump into action, they took on new roles and tasks. They adapted to the ever-changing situation. They worked diligently, intentionally, and tirelessly to understand the needs of the community as a whole and how best to respond. We collaborated with those who came in to help, and we really, really appreciate everybody from all the different places that people have come in, especially those who already had prior emergency experience, and we were able to listen to them and take guidance from them in the emergency situation and get to work immediately. And so for me, the takeaway was just how we showed up and didn't hesitate. That's the word I'm looking for. We didn't hesitate to jump in. And so if you needed me over here, I was over there. If you need me to put on my therapist hat and go set up mental health support, that's what I did. And so we managed to work in and use, I think, even the talents that some of us didn't even know we had, or abilities to make sure that we were recovering as much of the community that makes up Buncombe County as we possibly could.
Mm-hmm. I know, as 3 people, we all in the EOC on a daily basis. So it's just as you mentioned, when you see storms hit other areas, you always be like, just looking from the outside. But we have really learned how to just really collaborate and work together. I mean, the community stepped up a lot during this, but especially Buncombe County staff everybody was doing all that they could to help.
Well, I just like to give a huge shout out to everybody that were able to help. Thank you so much for whatever you were able to do, whether it was to listen or do something physical. Thank you. Yeah. Because we were truly needing to lean on each other. Mm-hmm. With that being said, you said a lot of things about how our elderly needed help and all those things, and that's what we talk about, human rights. That all people in all areas need to make sure that they're able to get all the things that they need. Mm-hmm. And so I am so thankful that your department was available, because I think a lot of times we hear about disasters and tragedy after the disaster. And I think some of that comes from us not thinking out the box about who's there. They may drop food off here, but if you're elderly or without transportation, you can't get those. Mm-hmm. And so that becomes a whole different type of tragedy. Mm-hmm. So I'm so glad your team was there to make sure to fill in those gaps. How is your team doing?
The team is doing really well. We are in this stage now. So to your point earlier, you asked about like the ESS. And so the ESS are those emergency support functions.
Yes.
And so when we were in those first couple of months, we were still in emergency mode. Mm-hmm. And so we are transitioning into recovery. So now they're called recovery support functions.
Yes.
And so same as that whole process is kind of happening countywide. Yeah. And so my department, we were all in emergency. We were doing any and everything needed on the emergency side. And so now that we're in recovery, they're starting to incorporate some of those normal day-to-day Equity and Human Rights Office assignments and tasks, but still with this kind of overarching lens of how does this impact the long-term recovery? How is working on this project or this task or this policy or this program, how can we loop that into the work that the county is doing as a whole to help all and everyone in the community and county recover? So they're doing well. It is the tight time we're in right now, a lot going on in addition to recovery. But everybody's in high spirits. And I think the other part of it too is that because the storm didn't just pick a certain neighborhood, or didn't pick a certain area, or didn't pick a whatever, again, that one Buncombe really comes out. And one Buncombe means we all got to come together for each other. And so I think from an internal perspective, other departments who it's not their job on a day-to-day basis to think from a equitable and inclusive lens, the light bulbs are going off and they're like, yes, we see this, yes. And so I think that is helping my staff to feel and see a lot of movement forward. Mm-hmm. And so I think that is another positive that has come out of this, is just the ability for people to see that we're here to help all. Mm-hmm. And we want the whole entire community, all who are impacted, from the worst impacted to the least impacted. You were still impacted and the storm still affected you, and we want to support you in that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think your office does a real well job of bringing, when you find yourself in emergency situations, you're kind of thinking very quick and fast. But with us thinking about equity work and various groups of people, the EOC has really allowed the opportunity for us to think about everybody. And even as we're making fast, quick decisions, you can still say, how's this going to impact this area? Or like a lot of our rural areas of the county were strongly impacted by landslides and roads washed away. So when you're riding around the city of Asheville, some things look normal unless you're in Biltmore or the River Arch District. But it's those things you got to realize that what we may take for granted is totally different than those out in some of those areas. So I really appreciate what your office do in terms of thinking of those communities. And it's one of those things of connections that we make prior to the storm. And so I hope another huge takeaway, as you said, was around this collaboration we had with community, but also looking at the opportunities of building these connections and maintaining these connections as we move forward. So just around, I don't know what my question was going to be, but we just do want to say we appreciate what your work do. But how do you, when you speak with your team, as I say, we make some of those quick decisions in short time frames, the most immediate. What's some of the steps y'all just put in to make sure that we are thinking about all residents?
First of all, thank you. I appreciate the compliment. Yeah, I think one of the things is that we try to be very intentional and making sure that we are aware of best practices, that we are aware of trends going on in the larger cultural world and just in the larger world of what's happening and going in different areas. And so that when we are tasked with helping others to understand or gain awareness, we ourselves have a knowledge base and a knowledge set, and if there is something that we're not sure about, we know where to go to get the information to bring it back. And so the work that we do, it's not that it's ever changing, but it evolves with the situation. And so we have to constantly evolve and make sure that we're staying up on our trainings, make sure that we are aware of who we serve and how we serve and supporting them. So those are kind of things I say in our meetings. And I think my staff are just really great at what they do. And so they'll bring stuff in and be like, hey, did you see this? Hey, are you aware of this? And I'm like, no, let's dig a little deeper. Hey, did you see this come out? No, let's talk about it. And then now that we talked about it, how do we implement it? How do we share this forward? How do we get people to understand? And so I think having that excitement about the work you do and passion about the work you do makes it not feel like work. It just feels like a passion project, and we get paid to do something that we would be doing anyway because it's just who they are.
So I think one of the things that really scares me because of they're taking away a lot of the diversity, equity, and inclusion language, and we talked about how your team was able to go in and make sure everybody was served. How is that going to affect your work now in the recovery phase? We have a lot of grants coming out, a lot of grants everywhere, and people are removing these type of words and out of our vocabulary. But it's hard to get people to understand that this includes people who are handicapped, people who are veterans. Like, there are grants that are out there that are just for veterans, and there are grants that are out there for differently able people. How does your department gear up to help those populations when we are looking at things of that nature?
Great question. There is so much that is going on so quick and so fast, and your head is kind of just spinning, and you're trying to find that focal point. I think about when I was in dance and we had to do our ballet spins, and my teacher would be like, find a point on the wall and just keep looking at that point. That's how you don't get dizzy. And so I feel like that's kind of where we are. We're trying to find that point on the wall and focus on that, and that point on the wall is to keep doing what we've always been doing, because the work needs to get done. The work is important and the work is valued. And so my department per se doesn't work directly with the grants and the funding, and so I know that as a county, we're keeping an eye, we're keeping an ear, we're listening out, we're being intentional about wanting to have an understanding, a true understanding of what's coming down the pipe and what does it mean for the future. And so right now, my understanding is that I will continue the work as it's been done. The Equity Human Rights Office will continue the work as it has been done, because like you said, we are here for all. Buncombe County, we're not preferencing anyone. No. We're not discriminating against anyone. If anything, we are fighting against those two things. And so that is what we'll continue to do. And I know my hope for the county is that we'll continue in that spirit of One Buncombe.
And so when I listen to you, I just think the work doesn't stop. and we still just have to do the work, you know? So even though the climate may have changed, we still need to serve those in our county. So just kind of piggybacking on ZaKiya's question, as we kind of go towards the end, what is your hope for the Buncombe County as we rebuild and transition into this long-term recovery here?
Yeah, I think my hope is that our actions continue to focus on recovering those most impacted and understanding even that word impacted, because there's the impact of the actual storm, the damage, what it did to people's homes, to people's lives, to people's jobs. But then there's that kind of indirect impact of maybe my house wasn't destroyed, maybe my car wasn't destroyed, but I can't go to my favorite restaurant because it's now shut down. Or my friend lost her job, and so I'm having that, or I'm feeling bad for another friend. So the impact is
multi-layered.
It is multi-layered. That is a great word. It is multi-layered. And so wanting to take all that into consideration. So making sure that it spreads to all who in the community who are affected by the storm. I hope that we continue to utilize our local businesses to build back our communities, that we continue to offer resources, access, opportunities, and services, and we continue to listen to what the community members need and work to provide as much as we can. I know, Leonard, you mentioned like the fact that we're collaborating across and with, and I don't want that to end because recovery ends. And we know that this recovery process is going to be years down the road before we fully can say we are fully recovered. But wanting to know that as we recover, those new things that we put in place, those new initiatives, new policies, new programs that have that recovery lens, they also have the voice of the people. And so I truly hope that we can build back in such a way that we are stronger together and that we are equipped to address any new hurdles that come our way. Because one thing that has kind of been a constant across this process is that we all have kept talking about how much we've learned, just how much we've learned of each other, people's resiliency, people's strength, people's hidden skills and hidden talents, that's not what your normal job is, but oh my God, you have excelled at this and this is amazing. And so being able to learn about each other and know your coworkers and your colleagues on a deeper level. Because you go to work with somebody, go home, but I really feel like that one Buncombe is now weaved throughout the entire internal county departments because we've had to come together.
Yeah.
It's almost like that check-in. It's one of those things the storm allow us to, when you just more like passing by, hello, how you doing? But it actually created that pause of, how you doing?
Yeah.
How your family doing? It just gave us a moment to really check in.
And you heard people say, how'd you make out?
Yeah.
How'd you make out in the storm?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it was a genuine check-in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so nice. And actually, I think one of the best things about the ELC, and people are going to be like, what? Was seeing coworkers that I hadn't seen in so long because we worked in different departments now.
Yeah.
And so that was really nice. And we all ate together a lot.
A lot.
And,
thank you for all the people who provided food during those first few months.
What was it, World?
Oh yeah, World's Kitchen.
World's Kitchen.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the thing is, it's so great that we were working for the community, but we became a stronger family while working for the community.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what sometimes disasters do.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, we say recovery, and people are like, rebuild the Wendy's, get Biltmore Ave back together. But recovery also means our nerve endings are needing some recovery as well. And so I think people seeing those things get put back together helps them recover. But because Dr. No is a licensed therapist, what are some things that will help the aid of mental health recovery for our folks as well? To your point, those nerve endings do need to recover. Our internal systems need to reset. And I think one of the biggest things that I can say is in this time of recovery, rest is a part of that. And really resting is what I want to stress, because if some people are like me, I say, I'm going to rest.
And I sit down and I'm like, well, this would be a good time to write postcards to people. This would be a good time to color my coloring book. Yes. This would be a good time to balance my checkbook. And so, because I'm sitting still, I'm telling myself that that's rest. But that's not rest. That's still me actively doing something.
Yeah.
And so really resting, finding what rest looks like for you, whether that's going outside and laying down in the green grass, whether that is sitting in a sunroom and just letting the sun bake you, whether that is laying across your couch with a blanket and a stuffed animal, but really giving your body time to settle, because we've been moving really fast, really fast, whether we think we have or not. We've been moving really fast, because even the fact that it is the middle of March, because it's past the 15th, so the middle of March, and we're really hitting 6 months, it doesn't feel like it's been 6 months, and because we've been doing. And so now it's like, okay, I'm slowing down. And once you start to slow down, then your body's like, ooh, you slow down, so let me tell you about this pain, let me tell you about this ache, let me tell you about, and you're like, why is my body hurting?
You are absolutely correct.
Because your body now has it. Because here's the thing, what I love about the human body, it knows what we need. So therefore, you're in recovery, I'm going to put some stuff on the back burner so you can do what you need to do.
Yeah.
But once you get what you need to get done, this stuff on the back burner has got to come to the front. And so as people's stuff starts moving to the front and you start having those weird aches and pains or odd things or headaches or can't sleep at night, again, if you have a therapist, talk to your therapist. If you don't have a therapist, you can go to Google and type in therapist in Asheville. So many things will come up. If you're specifically looking for a Black therapist or a therapist that looks like you can type in Black or BIPOC therapist in Asheville and lists will come up. You might have to do virtual because we're spread out. Yeah. But this virtual is better than nothing.
Virtual therapy.
You might have to do virtual, but it's still just as good. It's still quality, and they're out here. But talking it out, drawing, writing, coloring, resting, just letting your body tell you what it needs,
and getting a checkup.
Mm-hmm.
Get your cholesterol checked. Get your blood pressure checked. Get all those things, because I know if you're anything like me, during that first 3 months, it was like a what vegetable? What vegetable? And I gained a little weight.
We all did.
Yeah, but to Dr. No's point, I fell during the storm trying to get my car off of some debris, and was fine. I thought it was. I was like, oh, a little sore. Yeah, ha, ha, ha. Well, I took 2 weeks off to spend time with my daughter and was still somewhat busy, and I couldn't turn my head. And my husband was like, oh, you've been flinching all the time. But at this moment, I could not turn my head. Well, apparently I sustained an injury when I fell trying to get my car off of debris. Apples and threw them down the hill. They are full speed ahead. It is now an apple pie sliding down the hill. Mm-hmm. And so I beg you all, do not ignore anything.
Yes.
Anything that's going on. And look around. I tell you all, once a week, find you one location, and I just want you to go down there and just see the progress. That means so much to your heart and your soul and your spirit. Dr. No, can you give us a little something for our folks before we leave?
Sure. I shouldn't be surprised. Y'all ask me this every time. I'm like, oh, what am I say? Let's see. I think what I want to leave with people is to work towards balance. Mm-hmm. Whatever balance looks like for you. And once you find that balance, don't give it up for anybody or anything, because it is valuable. We're in a time now where it feels like we're kind of in a seesaw or a roller coaster, and we're just up, down, left, right, back, forward. And so if you can be the balance in your life, I think it's easier to deal with those up, downs, left, rights, roller coaster. But if you are out of balance, those things can knock you on your butt real fast. Yeah. So that would be, I think, my thought for today to leave with people is find your balance and then live in your balance.
Mm. I know I'll just like to echo, just like you say, find the balance, but coming out of the storm, the idea of continuing to build community. We build community in the immediate aftermath of the storm, and we can continue to do that as we transition away from the storm. But I also want to just put some information out there. If you hadn't heard, that the Buncombe County Tax Department has moved to a new location. It is at 182 College Street, and that is actually between 200 College Street is the county administration building, and the parking garage off of College Street. There's free parking for tax department. Is available in the parking garage, and visitors should bring in a parking ticket when they come into the new office. But that's something that just occurred on Tuesday, March the 18th. Our tax department has moved away from 94 Cox Avenue, and it is now located at a new address, 182 College Street, which is downtown by the administration building and the parking deck right across from the county courthouse. So I just wanted to share that information. And again, if you want to know any information about recovery that's going on with Buncombe County, you can always go to buncombecounty.org and find out all the information you want to know on our long-term recovery plans and any way that you can get involved as we transition to long-term recovery here in Buncombe County. Pass it on to you, ZaKiya.
Thank you, Professor Jones. Once again, this is ZaKiya Bell-Rogers, and I just want to thank everyone, and I'm so glad that you're still with us. And please also invite friends to listen to our shows. Remember, you can see them on YouTube channel, Buncombe County Tapped In. You may review them on Spotify at Buncombe County Tapped In, and also Apple.
And always on WRES.
Always on WRES. Well, Randy does the work. And
Miss Sophie.
And Miss Sophie is the planner. So with that being said, I'd like to remind all of you all to take care of yourself before you do anything else. We always hear, put your face mask on first. Take care of you, because you can't continue working at 10 and then expect to be okay. You gotta downshift to 1 or sometimes to 0 and just lay flat and just think about, things from your childhood, life and all that. But please take care of yourself. And if you're looking for more ways to take care of yourself, there are many ways to do that. You can go on Buncombe County's webpage, you can go on Red Cross and all of those great places. But always remember, we are one Buncombe, and we are here for you. And anytime you're needing some information, just listen out for me and Leonard so you can get tapped in.
Thank you for listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower, here on WRES 100.7 FM in Nashville. Learn more about today's topics at buncombecounty.org. Otherwise, stay tuned for more great episodes coming up.